G'day friends and fans, welcome to Day Talks of Ukraine War Update for the 24th of August 2026. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cain, Power Games, Into the Elsbound and the Erotic Tales from the Empire. As the war continues, I'll continue to bring you news and comprehensive coverage from both sides. In today's update, we have the European leaders visited Kyiv, so I suppose it's one of the few times you can actually say Russia did not attack Kyiv. Even though Russia is fighting the entire European conglomerate, European armies are not in Ukraine, so they can pretend they're in danger. But, of course, that doesn't mean Russia didn't strike Ukraine today. They struck Kharkiv, Dnipro. So, is it passenger train? Yes, was struck. And Odessa. Now, Ukraine launched a number of attacks against Russia today. As we can see, Russia continues to fire artillery into Sumy, and they continue to and made small advances in the buffer zone. Not so much here, though there was small advances. In buffer zone continues to take shape and push out. Meanwhile, in Kharkiv, there is nothing to report, nothing in Lugansk. In the Lyman area, again, nothing, and only small movement towards Kursk, which has also been hit by glide bombs. Koshnikovia continues to be stale, and small advances outside of Koshnikovia. Russian forces have made small progress in the central Donetsk, but no major towns have fallen. And they continue to grind against the Ukrainians. As we move along to the central front, there is lots of Russian infiltration has struck deep into Ukrainian-held territory, but for no changes to the front line. Same with Zaporozhye. Kherson, nothing to report. However, in one of Ukraine's strikes on Russia, 2 children were killed in Krasnodar. This was a strike believed to be debris that hit a child care center. It's not exactly fully detailed, but basically on the attack on the outskirts of a city in Russia, a Ukrainian drone hit the Ukraine has stepped up their attacks on logistics centers and warehouses across Russia, resulting in the deaths of children. We don't have details because the story switches to Ukraine seeking additional interceptors from US and Europe and key allies. Zelensky claims they were just out hunting launch sites. Wait a minute. I've heard this speech before. Yeah. Russia's been saying forever that they're hunting launch sites. Isn't that what the US was doing in Iran? I don't know why this is a big deal. They act as if Zelensky came up with this on his own. It's a new operation. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Isn't it amazing? A couple of children get killed, and suddenly, oh no, we're hunting launching sites. Yes, this is the kind of garbage. Now, people don't want to accept it, but in war, the worst doesn't come from the top. It comes from the media, the people in the middle, the people who want to protect the system because they benefit from the system. And if you don't think communism is part of the system, then you have not been paying attention for the last 100 years. Now, before I continue, Empire Valves, that's one word, empirevalves.myshopify.com, your one-stop shop for enchanting treasures based on my writing. Support the channel today, make a purchase. Thank you. Now, as I said, Ukraine's backers have met in Kyiv, and they're treating him like he's royalty. You've never seen, they visit Zelensky more than they visit the US. You think Zelensky, the sun, they were coming, we're holding a ceremony to make sure the sun rose tomorrow. So, the coalition are willing. Independence Day, yeah. Why don't you go celebrate American Independence Day like this? You know, it's so unbelievable the lengths they go to sell war in Europe. But when it comes to actual, I guess this is making up for, they never put this effort into Afghanistan. They never put this effort into Syria or Iran. When there was, remember, crisis in the Suez, Europe left the UK hung out to dry. It is so often not what they do, but what they don't do. This is Europe trying to hang the US out to dry and expand their territory. They want to become the new empire, right? They want to drag America down, slowly wear them out, make sure that Russia's ripe for them to take over. So they have their proxy war. And Europe doesn't care if China and India move in and take over half of Russia because they think they'll take the other half. Now, I don't know why so many people can't just simply see this and say, gosh, little man's got little man syndrome and Europe is drunk on power. Why can't you see that if whatever US does is bad, why can't you say the same about Europe? I suppose that's because the people who support war are the ones who are supporting it because they were the ones who are putting the boot on people's neck. And when it's their turn to become the victim, they go, oh no, war is bad. I'm calling out the shameful tactics of hypocrisy, of course. Kyiv leading the air defense and other greater pressure on Moscow, forgetting that BRICS is merely sitting on the sidelines so they can capitalize on the conflict. Now, one of the ways they're capitalizing on the conflict, and I'm sure people will say, oh, China's number 2 and always been number 2. Yes. You don't think that why people can't see that China is deliberately hanging Russia out to dry, that they are putting just enough into Russia to make sure they can keep grinding away. As long as Russia's slowly advancing, they won't increase missile production, fix. Now, I'm not saying that China hasn't got problems in that, but still, I find it hard to believe that Russia could go from having the best air defenses at the beginning of the war to suddenly having the worst air defenses in the war, unless Ukraine has had help. And that's participating in a war. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. And eventually, it'll come back to bite you on the arse. But I guess it's like Napoleon in the early days, right? I'm winning, I'm the best in the world. No, you're winning until you're not. And anyone who thinks that they are going to win every battle, forget the toll that the millions lost is a toll that's paid permanently. It's a never recover. Look at Britain. What did the millions lost in World War II get Britain? What did the millions lost get Germany? What did the millions less got France? They knew going in to World War II they were going to lose. So they lied to High Command, to the Emperor, but the Japanese knew they were going to lose. Yamamoto and others had detailed lists of American production, which was already ahead of Japan's. I suppose national humiliation was too much for them. And yes, you never learnt to be humble at the top. And so now we're seeing the patterns repeating, where the humiliation that was inflicted on Japan is now being inflicted on Russia. And Japan, of all countries, should understand where that leads and why they should speak up about peace. But they are. The mainstream media is not listening. Yes, Japan is worried about its security. So is Taiwan. So is a lot of countries. So they're turning a blind eye to what's going on in Ukraine because they need, and this is an unfortunate part of humanity, and I bet you've seen the ads, telling you that you only do your best work under pressure. So, realizing that there's a large number of people who only do their work under pressure, they're applying the pressure to Russia and Ukraine in order to increase development. And I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but this was actually something taught to me when I was studying the rules of power. A psychologist told me, and he said the same thing. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but these are actually things government planners consider. They never consider one aspect of a war. Wars are planned. Even if they seem sudden, they're planned. Professor Depew was a French professor in Vietnam who taught humanities and psychology. And, of course, as a refugee, he was a quiet man and didn't speak much. But when he spoke, and when he was speaking about national humiliation, he was talking about also how, nations, humiliating nations is a common thread in history. Now, I learned history from real historians like Heinrich van Loon, not your run-of-the-mill academics who try and reduce everything to soundbite. So if it sounds like I ramble, I apologize. But if you do not understand that I'm trying to get you to understand that if you do not want history to repeat, you have to break that cycle. And how many times have I told you, Ukraine is doing this war, provoked this war as part of a plan that was put in place originally by China and India to expand BRICS, to expand BRICS into Europe, that Russia was blocking the expansion of Chinese railway because China wanted to take over key parts of Russian railway, build a huge logistics hub in Ukraine to basically continue to flood Ukraine with Temu, Alibaba, etc., to slowly bring China up as they absorb Russia as a resource hub, as they absorb Pakistan's natural gas, as they absorb the oil across the middle belt of what you would call the Ozon, the Kazakh regions. So do not think that no war does not have economic interest behind it. So when there is attack on a warehouse full of women's clothes and children's toys, you know it's an economic attack. It is not even that big a deal, except someone somewhere is going to benefit. Does Putin want to draft new troops? There must be some truth behind it if the Moscow Times is publishing it. And where is Zelensky getting his information from? Well, most of it is actually coming from Russian Telegram. So he's not actually a smart man, or they're not, British intelligence feeding him lines. Now, Putin has repeated his statement about Pandora's box and economic targets that Ukraine is admitted that Ukraine has escalated to target Russian economy, including oil refineries and retailers seeking to destroy infrastructure central to Russia's war effort. Russia's responded with the same, attacking. What to do? We'll attack. We'll respond. Where you hit our sensitive economic areas, we'll hit your sensitive economic areas. You hit a train in Crimea today. 6 hours later, Russia hit a train in Ukraine today. You hit our oil, we hit your agricultural exports today. We do face challenges, and we'll resolve these issues. Russia's resolved them by beginning decentralization, something Ukraine has been doing for some time. So Ukraine anticipated Ukraine, come on. No. You may dismiss this as Russian disinformation, but if you look up Nikolai Arezarov, you will find out he's made a lot of allegations and nothing specific. But how many times must there be a fire in Ukraine? How many times must how many times must Zelensky fire a staff member before you start to say, why are all his staff members involved in corruption? How does he not know? Well, it is humanly possible, except when you look at the difference between you and me and Zelensky. Do you and I have access to an intelligence apparatus that vets every member of our family, circle of friends, staff members, routinely monitors everything that's going on around us to make sure there's no Russian infiltration, no attempts to an assassination, no sleeper agents waiting to murder us in our sleep? Yeah, that's why I can say with confidence Zelensky knows that his staff is corrupt, because they're routinely monitored. Plus, it's years now. Now, Russian volunteers, this is what I said, Russian mobile air defense teams. These are small mobile units consisting of volunteers. They drive pretty much night after night to what you would call an intercept position, and they set up a twin machine gun, usually on the back of a truck, and using night vision and a AI targeting system, they take out drones on radar. Now, these are huge missiles, and they do travel pretty fast and pretty low. But for AI, something traveling at 500 kilometers per hour, when they're processing thousands of instructions per second, yeah, all the gunner has to do is keep the thing loaded. And the thing was hit and it crashed. That's how fast it was moving, right? This is just basically the tracking. Still got a bit of drift. You can see the drift in the tracking. Still got a lot. Still got. It's not perfect. It's still trying to find the target, and the soldier's trying to hold it still. There we go. There it is, traveling. Yeah. Yeah. It's not very exciting, but yeah. There's the crash site. And you can see from the fireball, there's the burnout motor. There's Yeah. No, Zelensky is out there promoting this is the most successful missile in Ukraine's arsenal and trying to sell the FP5 Flamingo cruise missile to the UAE and others in their dispute with Iran. Some of them have turned it down because it's not as when they fired it for the test firing, it wasn't as performative as they claimed it was. But they didn't agree to the costs either, or the fact they would be solely dependent on Ukrainians operating them, or, all the other conditions. But the main thing that it came down to was some of these countries actually don't want to attack Iran. They wanted air defenses. Everyone wants air defenses these days. And that's what's really putting pressure on. Now, I am expecting a new war any day now to put pressure on the West. Because China, by my estimates, will want a couple more wars before they invade Taiwan. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm a strategist. I am looking at this dispassionately and looking at the moves on the board. And if I'm Russia and China and saying, shit, things aren't going my way, what do we do? Well, can we set Gaza on fire? Well, that didn't work. Can we set Syria on fire? Well, that's just been put out. Iran, can we escalate there? No, we're barely holding on. So, yeah, can we get Egypt to attack Israel? Not likely. What about Jordan? Nowhere near ready. What about Saudi Arabia? Oh, gosh, they're so Americanized. Maybe they'll attack Yemen. The Yemeni army is making major gains. So what do? Well, let's set Africa on fire, shall we? So we'll see, shall we? We'll see. You never know. They could get Brazil to invade Venezuela yet. That was actually a real thing, by the way. China did urge Brazil to invade Venezuela to secure Venezuela. Yeah. But Lula couldn't justify it. Well, he's not very useful for a useful idiot, is he? But you never know. You never know. But when it comes to war, I'm telling you, escalations are you look at any war, really. Can't think of one particular right now where, other than, say, speedy military operations, small military operations, most major wars have always been a result of escalating tensions and conflicts for some time. Afghanistan in particular. Now Afghanistan, of course, and Trump has let the cat out of the bag by admitting that there are people who want Iran taken down, wanted Afghanistan taken down. There's always people behind the scenes. Well, we all know that. We all can read. We all see. But right now, the tensions could be between India and Pakistan. But, again, Pakistan shot trying to... there is seemingly now this question. What happened to the 500 shoulder-launched missiles in Pakistan? Remember that story about the shoulder-launched missiles going to Iran? A private company in China buying them and shipping them to... and openly saying they're shipping them to Iran, and they disappeared somewhere in Pakistan. Did Pakistan take them? Did they fall into the hands of Pakistani rebels? Were they taken by the the Lashkar, is it the Lashkar Independence Army? You've also now got the Afghan Independence Army. You've got the Kushk rebels, although they're often sided with the Taliban and often called the Pakistani Taliban, but they have had clashes as well with the Afghans over poppies, of course. So you have a region that I think will counter it. So do not underestimate, just because Chinese equipment is Timu. Now these are, even Xi Jinping said it, they're teething problems. Now I'd like to point to you that during the 80s, the Maverick missile, the Sea Sparrow, Bradley's tank, they were failures. There were many other failures, right? But F-117 revamped, technologies from it are being put into the F-22 and F-35. B-2, some of the failures are now successes. There have been many teething problems. Patriot still undergoing. We have now the PAC-3, and soon we'll see the PAC-4 and 5, with the PAC-4 being so you'll have the PAC-3 short-range interceptor with its and then the PAC-4 a medium range, and the PAC-5 a long-range ballistic missile interceptor. These are large prototype missiles that are probably these could only be drawing boards. For as far as I know, these are only drawing board proposals, but there have been drawing board proposals now for a Striker medium. A Striker air combat air defense system. Sorry, not air combat, air defense system. So we'll see. Now the Striker system apparently carries a laser capable of 2 to 3 kilometers, taking out drones, and able to also protect against RPGs using some sort of impulse weapon that fires a broad, intense microwave pulse that could break missiles or RPGs anyway. So war technology is being advanced at a higher rate because the people who think of these things don't have the pressure to think of these things during peace times. You don't need a PAC-4 and won't fund a PAC-4 unless you're shitting your pants fearing Iranian missiles. And, well, you're not. But someone is. So the pressure's now on. And I would believe, as someone who often has only performed under pressure, and I know that's a clip that could be used to haunt me, but I couldn't think of any better words at the moment. So, at risk of sounding too long and droning on, and I'm trying to warn you that escalation of war is, right, Zelensky's already announced an escalation, but, and this is his third escalation this year, that is going to be countered by someone. There is always a counter. On offense gets a counterattack. Every single time except the end. And since we see on the maps today, Russia is still capable of retaliations. Iran is still capable of retaliations, even though they are down 86%. I wouldn't say 90%. Even the Washington think tank thinks at best it's 86%. And they don't love Trump. But when it comes to politics, they lie. But when it comes to war, they don't seem to lie because it aligns with other neutral parties. So this Ukrainian drone strike is not new. They've done this before to provoke Russians. They have hit historical sites before, like the Russian Crimean War Museum, like the Russian monument on the again in the Sevastopol. They've hit religious sites before deliberately because they know European leaders will just rally around Zelensky and pat him on the back because they're a bunch of atheists anyway. They're not even remotely what you would call Sunday Christians. They're not even Sunday Christians. They're not even Christmas Day Christians, and there's a lot of those too. But there's Ramadan Muslims. They're high holiday Jews. Hypocrisy and religious lip service is nothing new. There were plenty of Buddhists all across communism when the communists were putting rice in their bowls, and they supported communism until the communists stopped putting rice in their bowls and says, "Yeah, your turn now to become atheist." What? No, you're on your side. No, you're a useful idiot. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're also a useful idiot. Up against the wall. Now, war brings out the worst in humanity. It doesn't bring it. It doesn't. The most creative and the most destructive amongst us are gleeful, and that's sad. How gleeful many people are. But I have to be honest and say it's a slow road to the end. 6 to 12 months of this will, and you can see, even if they have a sea of red in the central area and the map doesn't change, then it is technically over. And then we'll hear the true cost to Ukraine. And you're going to be ashamed of yourselves. Because it'd be like the true cost of World War II. You're all sitting there in the theatres clapping on while thousands per day were dying. Civilians. But the golf clap, oh no, look at all the dead Japanese, oh it's so worth it. And then after the war, all the shame kicked in. All the shame for supporting the war. And you could look it up. Shame for war support, World War One, World War Two, all the way back. Victoria era. There was just so many people. And it happens almost instantaneously. When the war's over, it's like a veil is lifted and they don't see happy they see why the soldier, they don't see happy soldiers dancing in the streets. They see the handful dancing in the streets, but they see the long line of soldiers sobbing at graveyards over their dead mates. They see the families sobbing. They see towns. There were towns that had no men for 20 years. And part of that was the government deliberately holding men back until they were much older before they were released from either service or prison. And don't forget, there was how many times they covered up mass starvation, although that's getting harder to do. But also the crime. Remember, 50s, 60s, 70s, they were denying the high crime rate, the high murder rate. And now they're making excuses for it. Oh, it was the lead in the paint. We're good guys. We took the lead out, remember? Yeah. All the excuses. These are all leftovers of war. Now, right now, Ukraine is suffering a humanitarian crisis, a psychological humanitarian crisis, which has only been addressed by the UN at the moment, and that is the massive amount of depression and self-deletion in Ukraine. If you feel in crisis, seek out a crisis center, please. And if you are giving money to Ukraine, don't give it to war. Give it to the people. They need it. There are food lines, queues for food every day in Ukraine, covering up everything. If you think right now Ukraine is going to come up sunny and rosy out of this, I can only just imagine that you have not got any self-awareness about it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. You have no self-awareness about how little you know. And it's quite easy to know you know how little you know. Just look how big. Yeah, a lot of people benchmark their knowledge. This is, again, encyclopedia effect. Wikipedia has the same effect. It makes you think all subjects are small. Go to a real library and look what the size of a real subject looks like. Look at how many thousands of books there are on war and different ways and different methods of war. There are entire dedicated history. There are entire books into flanking, ambushes, air wars, ground wars, economic wars. And Ukraine is in a war of attrition with constant escalation as a feature. Those wars tend to be the most bloody, brutal, and more often than not, no one wins them. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. Right now, I'm hoping to get my patrons up to 100. Come on, friends and fans. It's $1 a month. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.